Hey everybody, welcome to episode 151 of Tactical Crouch. You made it. You're all here. You're looking great, beautiful. Thanks for everyone joining us live at twitch.tv/Kickedtripod. Of course, Yiska and Volamel with me as well, but it's not about us today. Today, we've got a special guest. This is actually our first episode with an Overwatch League player, unless you count Sideshow.
Dogman.
It wasn't active at the time, to be fair.
Did we have Dogman on? Was that? I thought that was we did have Dogman. Never mind.
Yeah.
Our second one.
But the first one in a hot minute.
Yeah.
First one in a hot minute. First DPS. There we go. Yeah, it is none other than new Philadelphia Fusioneer, sHockWave. Welcome to the show, sHockWave. Thanks for being on here and sharing your awesome room with us. We were talking about your topographical map earlier.
That's nice. It's I don't know. I'm happy to be here.
We've got a lot of topics to talk to you with you about today, and we're definitely going to do that. Let's get the housekeeping stuff out of the way so we can actually do that. First, our podcast is completely supported by our patrons. If you like the show and you want to support, you can do one of two things. First, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Or subscribe right here on Twitch, or sorry, patreon.com/tacticalcrouch, or you can subscribe right here at twitch.tv/Kickedtripod. Big thank you to our patron producers, Refine Bean, Ferdino, Pin, Battlecrab, Lotion, Rex Zane, Audio Compass, Kasha67, Sharp, Picasso, Nathan, Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Fabled Steven, Roger B.O., and Chris R34444. Horbion, and listen to this podcast while on the toilet and in the shower thinking of Yiska, Peace Camper, Shrek Out 2 on DVD, Sir Girthalot, and Bronze Bot Boo How. Oh, I did that one in one breath. We're finally there, boys. We're finally there. We did it. It just rolls off the tongue now. It's except for the very end. We had a couple new patron producers. Thank you so much for supporting the show, all you patrons and patron producers out there. That's all we're gonna do for the intro and talk about. And sHockWave, instead, we want to talk to you. First, though, how's the offseason been treating you? I have a feeling the last few months have been kind of tumultuous. Been kind of crazy. They had to have been pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've been at my my own place, so like I've been home pretty much the whole time. I haven't really been doing too much, but yeah, all season wise and like Overwatch wise, yeah, it's been yeah, that's happened quite a lot, you could say. It's been pretty much a roller coaster.
How did you feel during it? Did you feel secure you were going to be in the league and everything? Do you were positive about it? How did you feel?
Yeah. I definitely felt like guaranteed or sure the whole time. But when it's kind of weird because I'm still kind of new and to the team stuff and like still in the league, right? So the whole when you get like negotiations and you get, different interests and stuff, it's sometimes a bit like overwhelming. It's sometimes you don't really know what you need to do, right? It's like you need to sell yourself the best way you can, right? But sometimes it's still a bit weird. But yeah.
Well, I mean, you've obviously created a ton of fans. A lot of people are huge sHockWave fans. We have a person in our Discord who literally has just been, I think, sHockWave #1 fan or whatever.
Yeah, he was early to the party.
So you've definitely, as far as making a name for yourself in the game, you've clearly done that. A lot of people are a big fan of you as a player. You're obviously super duper talented. So I mean, sounds like you're on the right track. You're on a team who, we've obviously on the show, we always kind of take a look at all the new roster moves and, we do power rankings before the preseason and all that kind of stuff. And obviously the Philadelphia Fusion are lining up to be a really good team this year. So, what is kind of your thoughts coming to, a team that is, such a powerhouse like the Philadelphia Fusion? Whereas, obviously there was a lot of there was a lot going on in the situation with the new team in Vancouver and how that team is put together in the middle of the season. What does it feel like now to be going to a team that is established, who is generally being thought of as a real top team contender for the 2021 season?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned right before we went live, it's really crazy, and I'm still kind of overwhelmed. It's so, I don't know, it's still so weird to me because I haven't had the physical feeling of it, right? Like I haven't actually been there with the teammates in person, and I haven't played on a stage, and so it's still kind of, a lot of it is still kind of like just the thoughts of how it's gonna be, right? But I mean, I'm so pleased. It's, of course, it's just like almost in no time, right? As you say, you play for one of the teams that is looked at as being one of the best. I mean, it's just amazing. It's really overwhelming, actually, but yeah.
It's almost like, how people meme about I'm 37 just having a ridiculous rise, while yours wasn't just as ridiculous, it was still pretty outrageous, right?
Yeah.
So can you lay that out? Like, when was even the spark born that you could be playing Overwatch for a living?
Okay, so well, I guess I'm just gonna explain this now because in Denmark, the school, because I graduated, it's called gymnasium in Denmark, but to English-talking people, it's actually called sixth form college. It's basically like the age from like 15, 16 to 18, 19-ish. So around high school, college age, right? So when I guess that's like almost 2 years ago. Well, I did like play Overwatch, but it was like really casually, so there was nothing pro thinking of any sorts of that point. But around 2 years ago, I was pretty close to graduating. But that was really when I felt that I could probably make something out of it. But I was kind of committed, or like I was kind of already like 2 years-ish into the school. So I didn't want to like drop out and then risk it. So I thought I would just, because it's 3 years, so I thought I'd just like take the last time, and then I graduated last summer. And then I just said I would like really go for it there. So around 2 years from now, like November, October probably, I guess, is kind of when I felt it like I could be something in Overwatch. But the real like for me, like when I committed for real was around summer last year after my graduation.
So okay, I'm sorry. This is the teacher and me talking, and it's probably going to be the spiciest question you're going to be asked. But did you do well in school?
So when I went on a really, really good all these Danish terms, man. Folkeskole, which is like primary and secondary school,
Okay.
In a mix. And
we Americans just have school.
Yeah.
It's like all these special schools. I'm like, should I have been going to one of those?
We just have public school. I don't know.
They make sense from here, from Germany, so no worries there.
Yeah, exactly. You
I
probably
understand the concept, at least.
Yeah. I've gotten pretty trained at explaining the different terms and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. But I was I would say I was like pretty good, pretty clever, pretty bright when I like came into gymnasium, because I came from a really, really good school. But towards the end, I think my passion for gaming, and especially Overwatch, like towards the end of exam, it was kind of like a bit hard sometimes, because I don't know, sometimes like some of the subjects you have and some of the things you learn, it was just almost depressing, like thinking about like, why do I need to learn this, right? Like I just want to play video games, because at the end it was like I kind of wanted to try and pursue it, but then I was just tanking the last time, right? Like I was just really trying to get through. So at the end I guess like I fell a bit off, but I mean I've always been decently bright, I would say.
So you said that there was kind of a point where you like decided that I think I can do something about this, and you said that you committed to Overwatch. What does committing to Overwatch look like? Does it just mean you're playing more? Is that when you started trialing for teams or, starting open division? What did that look like?
Yeah, so when I graduated, not this summer, but last summer, I thought of how I would want to pursue it, but luckily in Denmark, when you go to gymnasium, you actually get paid to study. So I had somewhat some money, and I lived at home, so I didn't really need a job.
I'm moving, dude. I'm so
Yeah.
sick of you.
No, but basically, when I pretty much just went all in. I just played ranked. Started getting somewhat some recognition. But I basically just played. I don't know, maybe 12 hours a day, maybe more, maybe less some days, something like that. Because I didn't really have too many chores, or didn't have any sport or no job, so it was pretty much just all in, right? And then I guess I kind of started trialing or playing some fun tournaments, etc. I would say maybe August, September. And it didn't take it was around there I started, I guess, screaming, but I went really all in, nothing else pretty much than Overwatch at that time.
When it came to you kind of making that decision in your own mind, when was the first time, or who was it with? Could you kind of share this story of when you first kind of vocalized it to people around you? Did you first kind of talk to your parents about it, a close friend? When was the first time it was yeah, you know what? I think I could probably do this. I'm going to try. When was that first conversation had?
Yeah, it's around where I thought of, maybe dropping out and then giving it a shot, because I actually talked to my parents about it. I've been pretty transparent with them the whole time and how I've wanted to plan it, and I said that at the summer when I graduated, I wanted to give it a shot and go all in. I said that it would probably be a year or two, maybe, and then I would, if it didn't work, I would probably pick up school or get a job or travel or something. But yeah, I was pretty open about it. And I think luckily in Denmark, you school is if you wanna study, you can, right? There's no real limits, so to say. There's no big money fee or something you have to pay, right? So in Denmark is, of course, you take a shot, it's a chance, but it's not really if it doesn't work out, you're screwed, right? It's not like that. So so it's not that risky. Yeah.
It's always kind of interesting to hear, because I know that's obviously, obviously being in esports and, being in gaming, it's very normalized for us, but for, the older generation, and you get some mixed responses still. Obviously, I think as time progresses, things have definitely gotten much more understood and mainstreamified, if that's a word, but it's definitely a grab bag of responses on that. You did mention traveling, and we talked about it a little bit before the show. Could you talk a little maybe your favorite travel destination place? Because it sounds like you're pretty well traveled for being so young.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess it's basically because I have pretty much the most part of my life actually just traveled quite a lot. It's because my dad works with. He's a co-owner of a traveling agency. So it's kind of always been pretty right there to take. So, but it's adventurous travels, right? It's not going to Spain and by the beach or by the pool. It's been pretty adventurous, yeah. But I think one of the places I love the most, I went to Nepal. I've been to Nepal twice. Second time I went there, I went to Himalayas and for 1 week, and then in Kathmandu, the capital, the other week. So around 2 weeks I was there. But it's really, what do you say? It's almost like a reality check. I mean, I think it's also probably changed me as a person, but it's so different. It's just complete 180 of how, I mean, especially in Denmark, right? It's just you're just so well set for everything, and everything is so good, and and then you come down there and it's just crazy how people they found like joy in like all sorts of crazy things, right? You wouldn't have never thought like they were just boring, right? Or something like I even remember when I came home that I turned on like the sink, or like I was drinking like some tap water, right?
Mhm.
And I even remember like it kind of hit me. It was like, okay, there, it's kind of crazy actually, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was like really, I think a big experience because it kind of like set a good perspective probably on life without sounding too dramatic. But I mean, definitely like it's pretty good. I think experience. Probably learn a lot from it as well. So.
For sure.
Were you looking forward to, like, of course, like you started pursuing this before COVID was even known and everything, even though you were signed during it, but was travel part of like the deal where you said, oh, this is sweet, like just traveling the world as well with this? Was this like a drawing point for you?
I guess like a part of it, but I would also say like, because in gymnasium or school, I was actually like in my life, I've been like really, really social. I haven't really been probably like the typical, what do you say, like gamer or whatever you want to call it, right? Like just gymnasium, like partying a lot, like having a lot of friends, and I've been really, really social. So I think traveling and like with people, you know, you get to know, and then being social, it's pretty much like what I really look forward to. I mean, so I kind of sucked this year, right? Because travel is one thing, and seeing stuff, but like being there and being like social with people for sure is, I think, a really important thing. So I kind of miss that.
Right. So you got into Overwatch League.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? Did you feel like, okay, big step, or finally arrived, or what did it feel like?
So, when I first signed, it was kind of quick, because of the situation. So it was kind of weird because it wasn't like a properly, I would say, like, you know, like open trial, you know, and then you get like messages back, and like 4 weeks later, you know, you get signed. It was pretty fast. So I guess it like took some time to realize. Also because I was like playing from home, right? So and training and scrimming kind of like contenders, but I remember like when you in my debut, right? You played the first match, because I was always thinking that, I think a lot of people think that when you're playing in contenders, especially, and you don't really scrim or play tier 1 teams or all teams, that you don't really have a for sure idea of how good they are, right? Like you might have played a lot of them on ladder, but you might not know for sure how it's gonna be, right? So, you know, I was kind of, without sounding cocky, of course, but I was kind of surprised as how like the level was when I first got in, because I guess I thought it would be a bit higher, maybe a bit like harder.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, right? But it's just like you have this like great imaginary like thought, right?
You,
It's like,
you put it up on a pedestal.
yeah.
You're like, okay, this isn't quite what I expected.
Yeah, but like I remember like playing my first match, where I played Echo, I think, right? Yeah, that was like around when Echo came out. Yeah, and I was like, I mean, that's kind of, I think, when the realization hit that, okay, I actually think I did pretty well, you know, and it was really fun. So that's like really there, I guess, like at my first match, where you sort of got like, okay, this is pretty epic. This is pretty nice.
So okay, so you have this idea in mind what the level of play is like. Do you have any like player that you were like, okay, this guy's the real deal. If I can get to that level, I made it. Or that's what I want to be. Any idols in that? Or idols is a strong word, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I guess you like people you look up to and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of overall like multiple heroes and playstyle and stuff, I think I looked at Decay quite a lot, because his like ability to flex, I think, is pretty insane. Like, it's pretty unique, you know. But more like standout characters. I think when I first started playing Widow quite a lot, I definitely looked a lot of Ans, because I think his aim style and the way he plays is pretty unique, because he plays like really, really slow, and he lets people walk in his crosshair, right?
Mhm.
So I think like the whole point, like the whole way of him aiming in the game, right? Like he basically wasn't about how good you are at moving the mouse. It was more about how you predict their movement, right? And you wait for them to jump, and then it's really easy to hit them. So like stuff like that, I think I really took a lot of inspiration from. Still do, of course. Probably traces like, I guess, like Striker. It's just, I don't know. It's just insane. Like, because I always think like, the good traces just never die. Because I don't know. That's just sometimes I thought that was crazy, because some traces you just think like they don't die. Like
Right.
it's just crazy. But yeah, there's some of the people think.
Yeah, there's another question about idols that you might want to tag on, Joe. You know what I'm talking about? The
Oh
stylistic.
yeah. So in one of your interviews with the Titans, you kind of mentioned that like you looked at Glaive from CS:GO and Astralis fame as being maybe not an idol, but like somebody you kind of hope to be at least in one day. And as somebody who is this super clutch, has this super clutch play style and is always mentally tough, as cliche and as dramatic as that sounds. Is that an attribute that you kind of want, or at least hope that your gameplay can be at least in one day? And obviously mechanics are super important to that, but what else do you feel like has to go into that? Is it a certain mindset that you have to work on? Is it just kind of inherent to you? Is it just kind of come naturally? Like, what about being in those high pressure situations and making those calls is either easy for you, or how did it become easy for you?
So I think besides mechanics and stuff, I think it also comes down to personality, like quite a lot. There's things like, because people always, they're different, right? And they act different in different situations, etc. But I think I'm not really like the shy guy. Like, I'm not too shy. So I think it goes pretty well for certain situations in Overwatch as well. But not only in the game, also outside the game, right? Like taking critique, I think is also pretty good at. But I think what I appreciate, or like what I look up at like Glaive did or does, is that I like to see myself as, because I can kind of like talk in game a lot. Like I can calm if it's needed, right? Like I can kind of fill it out.
Sure.
But I can also play more, like focus more on mechanics, right? If that's needed. So I think I've always like wanted to be a bit, what do you say, not like too locked in one position, right? Like not this mute player who's just insane at just shooting hits, right? But he's not communicating, right? Or this guy who just only talks and talks and talks and talks, but he's so bad at the game, right? Like
Sure.
being like the perfect like balance, right? In a lot of situations, like clutch situations, pre-fights, like all those things, right? I've always thought it's pretty important, and it's what I aim to be for sure.
Where do you think that kind of comes from? Did you kind of do sports as a kid? That's always been something that I've tried to kind of draw a through line through with a lot of pros. Where does that discipline, where does that kind of mindset come from? Is that something maybe you just always had? Maybe your parents gave you? Where's the genesis of that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is probably like how you grew up, right? And like the social life you've had in your life and how you've like been through your life. But I tend to think it's also about like the cultural.
Sure.
Because I think, I'm pretty sarcastic, right? And I'm Danish,
Sure.
so it's kind of how it goes, right? But I think a lot of the culture factors are pretty important, because I think especially Danes are like talking to people, they can be really sarcastic, but they can also say just things straight out, right? They don't have to,
Kind of blunt.
yeah, like they don't have to sparkle it and be all perfect about things, right? Like they can say things as they are, but they can also be really sarcastic. And I think it's probably like some of those healthy, like social traits or cultural traits or whatever you want to call it, right? That's like giving or gave to it, I guess. So.
And I think that kind of speaks to a lot of, as you know, the American pride in me is going to have to take a back seat. Throughout esports history, Europe does have and has a consistency to provide a lot of top talent. I look at StarCraft 2, obviously Counter-Strike. I mean, come on, it's Europe's game basically. And in Overwatch, it's really no different, even though we have to, dive a little bit deeper and we have to, put a little bit more investment into that. Do you think that just generally, obviously you spoke, kind of towards Denmark, but obviously being well traveled and, for as young as you are, you seem pretty cultured. Do you think that really is kind of like a cultural difference between, looking at, other countries, especially the States, and looking at how they perform? Do you think that performance could be kind of like a cultural relation or has some relation to it?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's also different in EU as well, because I think there's like a lot of difference, in cultures, like between like Danes, and maybe people from Spain or France.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like there might be some big differences between the countries, but I think it means a lot, like how the country, how it like sees esports, I think, because that's like kind of what you can see in South Korea, right? Like it's
Sure.
They really, it's not just, it's like basically the whole country, right? Like accepts it or like sees it as how it is, and the reason why it's so
much
big.
more
I think,
mainstream.
yeah, exactly. And I think in Denmark as well, because now you have more and more schools that implement like esports and stuff into the school, right? And I think and part of it is probably Astralis, right? I would say has
Sure.
done like a great job in Denmark. All the documentaries and stories and whatnot they have told, right? But I think it's like, when the country like accepts it and they put out resources and
try to help.
Yeah, exactly. That for sure helps.
Is there kind of a part of you that's just like, man, if I get like my face on a newspaper, that'd be kind of sick? Is there kind of like a hope one day you're just like, man, I hope one day? Not so much.
I don't know. I'm not like too much the guy who just. I mean, I don't. Of course, it's nice, but I don't like go all crazy about it. I think what would be nice is one day to get on the Jimmy Fallon show. I think.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Setting the goals.
And then front page of GG Recon is a close second.
Jesus Christ. But I mean, I think going to Fallon requires but one task. That's of course winning the Overwatch League, and that's
probably
going to be likely, right? At least that's the pattern that we can spot so far. But yeah, like I think that's like a fine idea to have. Now, okay, so you mentioned that you weren't actually as big of a gamer in terms of, or let's say not the archetypical gamer, right? What else did you do with your free time beforehand? And because it's certainly weird. Like if you talk to the average player, like they will tell you this, like 12 hours. Yeah, that's my hobby, and it has been for a long time. So what's different for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, don't get me wrong, like I have, and my whole life, like I love video games, but it's not been the only thing for me, at least. I think I've I've played football for maybe when I was younger, like I think in 9 or 10 years or something. Started when I was almost like 3. Started pretty early in football, actually. Played handball, like I rode some motocross for like 1.5 years or something. Like I've done quite some things, like sports wise, but also like social wise. I used to have a really big friends group, I guess you can say, right?
There you go.
Yeah, but and partying, in school almost every week and a lot of that stuff. But I for sure always like love video games. It's always been. I mean, I guess I'm kind of like that cliche story, you know, when people tell you about like, yeah, I almost felt like I was just that tiny bit better than all my mates at school, right? It's like I'm the guy, you know, like it's just you had, you know, a mobile game came out and I got the record right in the class or whatever. Someone would beat it and I would just, you know, grind really hard to beat him or get it. But I've never really been like isolated towards it, right? Like it's not only been that. Of course, I've always loved it and had fun by it, but I've done many other things besides gaming. So,
do you feel you're talented in any particular gaming skill, or are you just really good at grinding things out and improving rapidly?
It's probably a mix, I guess, but I think genuinely speaking, I've always felt that because it's almost a mix because I always felt like it was easier for me, but I also on the other hand felt that I improved a lot faster, right? But I think it's a lot to do with my passion but some of the games, right, I played that I really enjoyed, it wasn't really boring for me because I think like motivation is like the most important thing, right? Because when you're passionate or motivated about it, I think you also learn faster about it, right? Like you care more and you really give in the time. So of course you're gonna improve faster, right? So I guess it's like a good mix, I would say, yeah.
Do you kind of feel like, especially when looking at school, because I think this is definitely another one of those through lines that, you know, speaking to, you know, the handful of players and you know, people that we've had on, it seems like one attribute that's constant is this ability to kind of pick things up quickly. Is that, and you kind of touched on that, but is that something you kind of resonate with, where like maybe in school, like you were very like natural to pick up on a subject? Like if I put like a language in front of you, do you think you could kind of pick up on it pretty quickly if you were invested? Or does it take that passion to really kind of like focus you in, and then you can really start to grind it out and really kind of sink your teeth into it?
Yeah, I would say it's probably a lot to do with the passion, because I mean, I did go to really good schools and they did like set me up pretty well, like school wise. So it wasn't really too hard, but I think the hardest part was when it was something that bored me, because it was hard for me to commit. And then, you know, when you go on and you make those assignments or whatever you make, right, and you don't really like it, it's gonna have a big effect on you. But I don't think it's not been like easy, but it's definitely not been like a struggle like at all.
Right.
So like, because
you can kind of like flip that switch where it's just like, okay, if I need to, you know, actually get it done, you can kind of muster up the motivation, kind of find something to be passionate about in that subject and kind of get it done in a way. Is that kind of make?
Yeah, usually. I mean, it's like, if there's something that in school that, you know, I liked or enjoyed, then I would, you know, be pretty good at it. But on the other hand, when it was pretty boring or I wasn't liking it or not, you know, passionate about it or something, it was just, sometimes it was pretty hard to make a good work out of it, at least.
For sure, yeah.
So I think, yeah, passion for sure has a lot to say.
There was, maybe I spotted the moment wrong, you can tell me, but you talked about like you were always very social, and then it felt like, okay, now you got to commit to Overwatch. Also, like just from knowing students, like finishing school is always like a moment in time where it's very easy to lose track of friends that you made in school and whatnot.
Sure.
Do you feel like your social cycle has changed, and do you think that's like just how it is, and is that a worthwhile trade-off at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've kind of like, you can say like I've kind of tanked my social life quite a bit. But I mean, I knew that before. It kind of sucks that Corona is a thing, because that hasn't really helped out as well. And the fact that I had to play NA, right? So my sleep
Right.
schedule is all messed up. So when I'm done screaming, it's like, oh, it's 1 a.m. or something like that, right? So yeah, it's basically been quite sacrifice, social-wise. I mean, friends, family, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just I kind of accepted it when I first wanted to really try it, but I think because I really enjoyed it, and I also made pretty good friends and pretty social, like talking and playing Overwatch, right? So it hasn't really been too much of an issue, but yeah, sometimes of course you can get like a bit. It's like you can think about it like a bit sad, like you have somewhat tanked a bit. But yeah,
I mean, like you said, it's one of those things that it's a trade-off. It's that sacrifice, and you make the best of it, and I'm sure you have. This isn't meant to be like a sad question, but I think it kind of shows the public what really goes into it, because we just see you guys play on the server and click heads, and that's super sick, but there's a lot more to this decision to spend 12 hours a day playing in terrible time zones. There's more to that than really what meets the eye. What else kind of has gone to the wayside or has become secondary because you're so focused on Overwatch? Like you said, the family, the friends, the social circles. Like, is there anything else that you wish maybe you could spend a little bit more time on, a hobby, something else that you're super passionate about?
I don't know. I mean, I guess like since gaming became a hobby, I don't know if there's like any sports or things. I mean, I think like the big part for me is just the social parts, like things you do, of course, like being social. I think that's like mainly the biggest thing. I don't really have like any side things, like I don't really collect things, nothing like that. So yeah, it's basically just been like the main part, like the social part of it. So.
Missing out on like holidays and birthdays, stuff like that, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like when it's also a bit weird because like it's also like perfectly usually in that like a teen like age where like people somewhat like some move out, some travel for some months. Like it's just like the pinnacle of that age, right? But it's not really like it haven't been too hard, and it's not really been anything apart like social life and stuff. So yeah.
Right. There's also like someone has been talking smack in chat. Your coach is here, Christopher.
Oh.
And he just said that he would probably be the best footballer on the Fusion. Now, I know the type of player Christopher is. Like you can just tell that he's going to make every game you play against him a cold, rainy night in Stoke. For those that understand the meme, do you think can we put a pin in that and get a like at a later point, just once you're in the States, can you show him? Do you think you would compete there?
I mean, I don't know, because I'm I'm not that big, so I mean it used to be decent when all the mates were, it was like everyone was kind of like the same height and stuff like that, but I think now he kind of has the advantage. I think it's also a long time since I played, so maybe handball, but he doesn't play that. I don't think handball is too big in NA as well. I don't know about UK as well.
Definitely not NA.
It was pretty big here because Germany's basically
Germany, Denmark for sure. It's really big.
It was never big, but we played it in like high school growing up, and I actually really liked it, and I was actually good at it. And then, of course, it's a sport that nobody watches or plays.
Literally nobody plays. It's like who?
That was maybe my real calling in life. This podcast might not exist if I were in a European country with handball.
I genuinely kind of love to see like an owl like football match, like like that, an all-star team like pit against one another. That'd be genuinely fun. I know that the Paris guys, I think, maybe they can correct me if I'm wrong, played in Korea when they were there or something. something to do. I know that there was like a lot. There was like a cycle of teams playing or a pug kind of game going on, which was kind of interesting to see. I'd be kind of interested to see what that looks like and put some commentators on it, have some fun with it.
For sure.
Kind of fun.
Yeah, I recall. Like, I think Christopher said Ben Best and Twilight are pretty good. Like, they legitimately are pretty good. But Ben Best, you can immediately tell. I feel like that's just like you can tell he's good at football.
I mean, I think it would be funny if there's like other games, you know?
Yeah, like an all-star. Like while we're at all-stars, you know, maybe have a football match. You know, handball here. You know, really
like,
kind of showcase.
No, like other
video games.
Oh, okay.
Like
what else?
Teams in League or CS or.
Oh, you played League?
Yeah, like a long time ago. I was like Plat 4 or something. But,
okay. And then CS?
Yeah, CS I played quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really too big a deal because there was a lot of it was like with my RL friends, school friends and stuff. So it wasn't the highest level, right?
Right.
But
sure.
Played a fair amount.
Huh. Do you think that's a game you could have gotten pro in some way in another universe as well?
I don't know, because I think I got too bored of CS. I think it's too slow for me.
Ooh.
Like I mean, especially because like I was playing CS and Overwatch, and when you first start to play Overwatch, there's kind of no going back. Like you're kind of you're like that's it, right? You can't go back to. For me as well, like Valorant, I tried once, and every character had like a smoke grenade, you know. And I was like, no, okay.
Not for me.
And when you die, you spectate your maybe like 1 minute. I was like, no. I'm not gonna play this, dude. It's just so boring.
So is like Quake more your speed, or it's just like constantly go? Is that kind of a little bit?
I mean, I guess I've like kind of evolved to being like that. Because like I did play a fair amount of CS, and I think CS for me now is really boring. But for sure, it used to be pretty nice. But I guess like as time went on, I got, I played more and more and stuff. I think the higher APM was kind of required for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
One thing I fall asleep just thinking about CS:GO.
Jesus Christ.
No, but I think the thing about CS:GO is that it's probably, I don't know if it's the best, but probably at least one of the best games to watch. It's probably the best game, I think, to watch because a lot of people can understand like every detail that's going on. They can like appreciate, like someone throws a really good flashbang for someone, right? And like people can, okay, that was really good, and
right.
Someone throws, I don't know, a really good brick health pack, right? You're not thinking like, oh my god, this guy is nuts, right? You see a Widowmaker kill like 3 guys at the top and you're like, oh yeah, that guy is pretty good. But so yeah.
So Joe, do you have any other personal life questions? Otherwise we would want to get into some Overwatch in terms of like
I think it's definitely a crossing point into getting into OWL. It's definitely, not only is it worth talking about, I think it'd be a disservice not to kind of get into the shock where you're at so far, the newness of it. What's it like? Obviously talking with the coaches, maybe first impressions if you're open and giving that, stuff like that definitely is going to be on the docket. Interesting.
Yeah, let's do it. Where you guys want to start here?
Okay, let's start. Like one thing I'm always interested about, which is like a lot of players when they play in contenders, like either because they recognize the opposition that they're playing against, or like the teammates that they met. Is there anyone where you're like, okay, like sooner or later this kid is going to be an OWL, like, or had potential at some point, and maybe he's no longer pursuing that or whatever? Someone that really impressed you?
I think, well, like from my career, probably when I played, I mean, I used to think like KSA, but he obviously got in the league, right? But he always inspired me because.
What's he good at?
Really nice.
Maybe explain that a little bit, because like, of course, like the problem with in Overwatch is it's a very complex game. He plays a very complex role. It's really hard to evaluate for people why a guy like this could be something special, right? Just like from the outside, from the narrative going in. So what makes him so good?
I think what does it for me, like judging players, is sure, like people can be good mechanically and stuff, but how they feel about the game, like how their passion is for the game, I think is really unique. And I think some players, and a player like him as well, like what makes it good is that he really, really cares for the game. And then people that really, really care, like they're gonna improve faster, right? And good practice and stuff, like they will get really good like pretty fast. So I think when I like appreciate, or like I think people are good or might be good in the future, I usually like judge them from how they really like appreciate the game, so to say, right? Like how the passion is for the game. Because I think that's like probably like the most important thing, right? Like you can have someone that's mediocre, right? But in my opinion, then if you have some guy that right now might be a bit worse, but his like passion and potential, right, is like out of this world, right? I think that's way more deserved for that guy. So
I think that's really a great point in terms of like when I think about the attributes that people tell me why they chose specific players, and that's like across the league, right? So I think they generally they will give you like, oh, this guy has crazy mechanics, game sense and whatnot, but they will always make sure that some intangibles come into their evaluation. And one of them is, of course, like this is a long season, and like you don't want to play with anyone that's toxic. So you want like workable guys, coachable guys, but you also want like I think I didn't hear it as much this offseason in the previous off seasons as I did this offseason, is that they need to be a hard worker. Being a hard worker seems to be like one of the attributes that people now really look towards. Also because like if rosters are tinier, like you can't really have specialists as much. So like you kind of need to get guys that just outpace the opposition with work going in. And then especially if you're a good coach, you also trust yourself to be able to coach someone that is willing. And when there's no resistance to learning, that seems to be like such a important thing. And okay, not to toot your horn like too much, but like that's also an attribute that I frequently heard brought up about you during this offseason. Just to add a little bit, because I know it's hard pointing that out about oneself, but I thought I'd add the additional context just so people have an appreciation how you had such a meteoric rise, right? So like your explanation of Kasi that makes makes perfect sense in the context of this offseason specifically. Right, so there's another topic that has been kind of close to my heart for a long time, ever since that actually Christopher put me on this, right?
Oh.
And it's a topic about confidence, right? So Christopher was on and said like momentum and confidence plays a large role in how a season can go, because there's something about confidence, and for the like teams that lose a lot, there's also something about almost forgetting how it is to win. Now, of course, like despite like you guys coming in very late into the offseason, like you were never like the team that absolutely got trashed, but you probably lost more than in contenders. Did that do anything towards your confidence?
Not really, because I think actually I'm not really disappointed actually of how we played like at all, because I think we did like some upsets. Some of the teams we beat, I think we went out and proved that the game is like, it's so much more like, yeah, you can have good mechanical players and you can have a good roster, right? But I think some of the games we won was like, sometimes maybe we were literally just playing a better comp, or or like some heroes, right? That are literally just better, that their team didn't pick up, right? But I think like how we played and how we performed, I think it was all around like decently solid. I don't really like too much. I mean, I guess like all like commentators and people, and they always like have the excuse like, yeah, they were like, as you said, like thrown in together, you know, and it was like pretty fast and spontaneous, right? But I don't want to think too much about it, and like use it too much as an excuse, because at the end of the day, I think like some of the matches we lost like was very winnable anyway, like because I think last season for sure, with how like the hero pools worked, the fairly drastic like balance changes that was every now and then actually really benefit like maybe more like individually mechanic, like, you know, like more individually like skilled teams. Whereas I think like because we of course didn't really like barely knew each other, right, and our roles and what we played, right? So I think sometimes it wasn't too bad for us, right? You know, sometimes even like when I played, you know, I got away with playing like I was playing, you know, year ranked, you know,
Right.
and it surprised people, right? Because there's never been so many fast changes in metas and whatnot. So I think it was kind of, you know, of course, yeah, maybe sometimes we had to work on like old rotation and, you know, how our game plan, all that stuff, like. But then when you think about like more individual plays, then maybe sometimes we would have been, you know, a bit better than some teams.
Right.
Sure. So.
Okay, this is perhaps an obvious question, and feel free to call me dumb for that. But how
You're dumb.
how big,
You're dumb. You're dumb. You're dumb.
How big of a deal is it? Because like we hear about these stories like Fielder to another mess, like you played for Europe, like depending on the matches, that must have been atrocious ping. Like how big of a deal is it? Like how nerfed did you feel in terms of playing on ping?
Yeah, so on ping, so I played, well, I'm from Denmark, right? So in officials it's not as bad, because you know, you VPN, you're a bit closer, it's higher tick rate, I think, as well. So the games itself are a bit more smooth. I think I got like 115, but scrims were like 135. So it wasn't too bad on, I would say, like hard hit scans. So snipers, Widow, Hanzo, Ash, McCree, heroes like that. But when it got to heroes that were more about abilities, like Tracer, Sombra, I guess like to some extent Echo as well, sometimes it got a bit problematic. There was like a time where I think, was it Sombra Tracer that was like meta, something like that. And initially, I said that I like wanted, or like I would play the Sombra, right? But we initially made the decision to put me on Tracer, right, and Delta on Sombra, because on ping it was just like the value I was getting, you know, compared to what we could get if I wasn't on such a ping reliant hero. Because Sombra is Sombra, like, I think Sombra and Doomfist are like a living hell on ping. Like it literally affected what we had to play, right? That was kind of how bad it was on some heroes.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, but other heroes, I mean, it wasn't too bad on the sniper heroes. But I think one of the harder things was how like mentally draining it is, because especially when you're scrimming or in a match, right? Like you're playing the first map, it's a cough, right? Maybe you die mid blink or mid recall, right? And then suddenly that happens like 3 or 4 times. And then it's like someone's like, you know, like it's ticking, you know, on your head, like slowly and slowly, it's like building up. So I think like as you go on at the maps, it's like really, really mentally draining. Just like it starts all like perfect, you know, you're getting into the block, and then one moment after another, oh, you shoot something, like you get a no reg, right? Like the dumbest no reg ever. Someone's standing still and it just doesn't register, right? And it's just because I don't really like to complain about it because I think like that kind of ruins the. I try not to at least, right? Like for the most part, because I
Sure.
think it kind of like ruins the comps, you know?
Right.
Like the whole team is just gonna kind of like get in a negative mood. So you try like just keep it like inside of you, right? You know, you shoot something, you're like, oh,
Bottle
dude,
it up.
what
Yeah.
is this, right? But like it kind of builds up, I think, and there's like really, I think it's like mainly in scrims. It's pretty mentally draining, actually, because you know you get pinged and it's unfair, right? Like it's out of your hands, you know. It's
Sure.
not because necessarily you misplayed. It's just unlucky, right?
Doesn't make it suck any less, but
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, legit nothing you can do about it. So
You kind of touched on something, you know, regarding scrims and branching off of Yiska's kind of confidence thing. In certain esports, it sounds like the scrim environment is a lot more confident, a lot more aggressive than it is on the officials. Is that something that still kind of happens or does happen in the Overwatch League? Do you feel like there are teams that play very different than they do in scrims than officials, and maybe that affects their overall play? Is that something that maybe you've noticed?
yeah, I think there are some teams that might have more, I guess, more like an attitude, and then you know on match day they might play a bit different than they play in scrims. But I think what I've gathered, I tend to think that most of the teams that like genuinely have fun scrimming is most of the time gonna get the best results. Like the teams that let it get to them, right, and overthink things, they get too nervous, or like they get pretty nervous on match day. But the teams that really have fun and actually enjoy it, I think, are the most successful ones. So
Yeah, it's a weird idea, right? Like you would think like, okay, so like the SF Shock get into the practice room and then they put on their white cloaks and then they do some Overwatch like science and just like do it very professionally from 9 to whatever, and then they go home and you know like it's all very dry. But I think, I mean, some teams are very professional about it, but like having fun is part of it, right? Like generally.
yeah, for sure. I used to say on the EU contender team, you know, I made with some friends, Raspberry Races. I think we used to say that like friendship was kind of broken. It was kind of like a broken thing.
Right.
Because it's just, I think it's just like, because Overwatch is just, I mean, especially again, like touching on the hero pools and stuff, is that like when you're having fun, you know, and you're experiencing things, like you might try some heroes and it might work, right? And there might be some environments sometimes that are more strict, or they're more, what do you say, like, yeah, I guess like more strict, or they're more nervous about, you know, trying new things, and then it might be a really bad thing. But on the other hand, of course, it's not, you need to still like actually try, right? I mean, you say that, yeah, you can have for sure fun and sometimes troll a bit, but sure, you don't have to like throw or like troll all the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in that way, do you think the fair? I do you think the community and maybe somebody, the players that you've spoken to, do you think they kind of like devalue that true trust in your team? Like you said, friendship's kind of broken. Do you think synergy is kind of undervalued in the league? Do you think that like a team that might just be super close can compete with a team that mechanically seems absolutely nuts and cracked on paper, but because they have that utmost trust and they know that they can rely, and you know they're having fun with their friends all the time, do you think that, you know, that adds a little bit more, you know, stat weights to their RPG sheet?
Yeah, I think it adds a little bit, but I don't think it's, I don't know for sure if it's like the main deal breaker.
Okay.
I think it's like one of those things, so it's, I would say pretty positive or pretty healthy, right, for a team. But I wouldn't just be a team owner, right, and just go out, oh, let's pick up the best friend group of clowns and like make an owl team, right? I don't think that would be a successful team. But like a healthy like balance for sure.
Right.
That's fair.
So, okay, one question I kind of wanted to follow up on, because
Yeah, go ahead.
like one thing that I can see how ping is bad, especially in scrims and then officials. How bad is the feeling of ping in tryouts?
Yeah.
Is that like especially bad? Did you feel you were like impacted this offseason due to that?
Yeah, I mean, because most trials are usually on West Coast, right?
Right.
So that's, I don't know, 170, 180,
Right.
something like that. To be fair, like you get kind of used to it, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of annoying because you try not to think too much about it, but then like as I explained, there's like the brief moment, you're playing against a brick, you're playing what you say, like tracer or something, right? Like you recall and then you're best, like I don't know, right? And that might happen quite sometimes, right? And it's kind of like staggering and builds up. So it can definitely. I mean, I wouldn't say like I don't really tilt, like especially not in team environments, nothing like that. But it can kind of affect it a bit for sure. So and in trials you wanna, of course, give your best. So it's not really it's not too nice to have 170 ping on top of that. So yeah.
For sure.
Okay, Juice question. Did you play a lot of tryouts this off season?
Yeah, yeah. I had a fair amount. I guess I can say. Was it? I guess I had like interest from like 11 teams, I think, something like that. Yeah.
11 teams have eyes. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to those 11
teams
teams.
have eyes.
But I mean, of course, it's not all like offers, and didn't all of them not be trials, but it's quite a lot of interest and quite a lot of trials. Yeah.
So can you tell us, I mean, obviously you can't go into like specifics on this, but can you tell us
Sadly
kind of
not.
what like really drew you to the Philadelphia Fusion as being kind of the one that you want to spend the 2021 season with?
Yeah, so I think I had I kind of like made it almost like a list in my head.
What number was
of
Christopher on that list, by the way? What number do you put Christopher on that one?
Don't know if he
Was he
even
one
on
of the voids? Was he one of the void slots?
No, but I tend to think I thought of like players, like the overall environment, players, coaches, all that type of stuff, because I said to myself that at next year I kind of wanted to for sure have fun, but also kind of like wanted to grow as much as I can, right? I don't want to just throw myself or like sacrifice myself for some nutty contract, right, or something like that. I mean,
Right.
I do really think it's important for me, at least, because now I've been home for quite some time, and relocating as well, like that was of course on top as well, because I would be going insane like if I would just go to 1 more year home
So
like this. So yeah.
what about the players of the Philadelphia Fusion like makes you feel like in a year from now you're going to improve as a player? Like what really kind of stands out about that squad?
I mean, there's no NA players, so
All right. Wow.
kidding.
Getting trolled on our own show. We're out of here, guys.
I'm good.
End
I'm good,
show.
No, I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know. It's. I think a lot of them. What does it for me importantly is you need to have a good humor, right? And be sarcastic, and I think everyone and yeah, like the coaches and stuff, like you have that, and it's really healthy, I think, because I like to be a bit loud and a bit edgy, maybe like in a good way sometimes,
Sure.
for sure. So
Not in a social media risk kind of way, but in a
No,
other
for
way.
sure not.
Yeah.
no.
What's it like? Because okay, so for those that don't know, there's currently I believe only 4 players left on their on their first roster that they signed.
Oh,
3 of them are from the Fusion. It's Poco, and it's the 2 guys. I mean, you won't really necessarily be competing against them for a starting slot because of your flex role, but it's also EKO and Carpe. Like, how do you see yourself fit in between these? I mean, they survived Moth Meta, they survived Goats, they survived everything that was last season.
Respect.
So, right. How do you think you will fill in there?
I think from what I've gathered, I think it's kind of good because it's kind of like, when you get this. I like to think of myself as kind of like a new blood, or like new talent, and it kind of challenges them. I think to kind of. I wouldn't say I don't necessarily think I'm better than them right now, but in the future, kind of challenging, like
right,
like a rival.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, like it's good motivation, I think, for sure.
So you're in your hero pool is wide, right?
It's weird.
It is weird, right? Like, how would you describe it, and what do you like playing better? Do you just like trolling whatever the flavor of the month is, or do you have like favorites?
Okay, so to make it clear, I think I'm not a hard flex DPS. Like I'm not flex as you think of, like EQ. But I think I learn heroes fairly fast, like through the time, which is why I kind of have this hero pool. Like I'm one of those guys that I play a hero for not too long, and I kind of get the thought of the hero right. Like a good example is it's Echo. Like when she came out, I kind of grinded her, played the Echo tournament as well, and all that stuff, and without coaching or anything. Like it's pretty much just myself, right? So I think it's mainly just heroes that I have actually played that are like in my hero pool. Because there's some heroes that I haven't played too much that I wouldn't say like right now I'm not too good at, because when I played Overwatch, at least in tier 2 and now tier 1, haven't really been a time where I've played like Pharah and more flex heroes like that. But I think I like to think myself that I have potential with good coaching to learn probably almost everything. Hopefully. But yeah, that's like usually how I think about it. It's mostly just what heroes I've actually picked up and played, because I'm not a veteran, right? So there have been some metas that I haven't played. So there are some heroes that I haven't really touched, because why would I play Mei when it's like double sniper meta, right?
Right.
So there's been some heroes I haven't really touched that are not my hero pool, but it's a bit
fun.
It's no, it is a bit weird. It's a bit weird for sure.
For somebody who, like you said, picks up on heroes quite often, do you have like maybe a different opinion on the role lock? Like, do you kind of wish like you maybe have like started a little bit earlier to kind of get in before role lock hit, so you could kind of really flex around and try all kinds of wacky stuff? Is that kind of like spark that joy, that the kind of fun side of you that's just like, oh man, like what if?
I guess there's like both like positive sides and negative sides to it. I think some of the things I did kind of touch Goats, but like for fun team and like some fun tournaments around the early time when I really started to play a bit. But I guess what you could appreciate from metas like that is that it was more coordinated, and then you had your old game and stuff like that. It wasn't so chaotic, so to say. It wasn't more it wasn't really like a ranked game. It was really more coordinated and professional. But I think on the other side, what I kind of skipped was that it wasn't a really stale, right? Like it wasn't the one trick comp, right? That you had to play for so long. Because I think the ultimate fit is, some comps you have for a decent amount of time that teams can perfect and tweak how they want. Maybe swap one hero or something like that, right? And then make a rotation, and because like a year or something, a bit too long, I would say. And on the other hand, like you have a week or 2 weeks or something. It's also a bit too short, maybe sometimes. So I'm not too
not too bothered by it either way.
Yeah, no.
You're just here to show up, be here to play. Put on a good performance.
I think Overwatch, like with Cube, was in like a decent state.
It's good.
So help me understand like where you see yourself. And for instance, let's say at least like archetypically last season, like we had a bunch of Ashe Tracer comps, we had a bunch of Widow Tracer at times, depending on the style and like type of the region. Who are you in that? Because like, of course, we don't know if you guys are going to pick up any more players, but it appears to be the case that you would then have to, like with EQ Carpe, it's likely that you were then going to be one of those either Widow, Ashe, Tracer, whatever. What's your hero there?
I think luckily we have quite flexible players. So I think probably our coach is just gonna have a fun time like putting around the small pieces, right? Because I think it's also about people. Certain players can maybe be a bit better mechanically, but they might have some other good things, right? Like their comps might be in a certain meta. Maybe just theoretically speaking, you're playing dive, and then some guys comps is really important, so you play that guy above the other guy, right? So I don't think it's too determined, actually. I think it's gonna be more of probably what obviously the coaches feels more natural or like fitting for a team, which I think is really good, right? Like that's really good not to have a kind of a limit like that. And I mean, if there's any niche heroes, right, or like some weird meta, like I'm more than down to learn it for sure. There's no issue. So
have you talked with the boss yet?
Yeah, some.
Okay.
I've had some words.
And what's your first impression?
Wait, sorry. Wait, which boss are you referring to?
Right. Yeah.
There's a few of them.
I mean, there's a couple.
There's a few of them.
Of course, Night King.
Oh no, not too much. A tiny bit, but not really. Like we're still living or vacation out there.
It's 5 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
So not too much yet. Soon scheduled some meetings and stuff, but did a bit in like the All-Star games,
right?
Because he was the coach there. So yeah.
Oh,
not
interesting.
Yeah, he was the. Oh yeah, I don't know if that affected anything. Maybe it did.
Oh.
I actually haven't even thought of that. No, but yeah, no, not
Did
really.
you actually practice for that one?
The All-Star game. I don't think we did actually. Did we? I don't think we just showed up. Actually, I think I played that like I got completely rolled in that Widow thing by Link.
Oh right.
And then I went to go on and lose the other match. So yeah.
This is kind of opens up an interesting one that I think is always kind of fun to hear players' takes on. Like who's obviously playing through a good portion of last year, who is just a player that just like not irked you or bothered you, but who is like one of the most like annoying players? So somebody had like this style that was just like, oh, this is so frustrating to play against. Like who just really kind of stuck out last year out of the 2020 season is just like, oh, I can't like get a read on him. Like something about what he does is just irritating.
This is where you can call someone trash. That's allowed.
No, I think by far the most annoying guy I played against was probably Striker on Tracer, because I love the comps where it was like a if I was playing Sniper, right, and it was like a Ash Tracer, Widow Tracer, stuff like that. I've never ever in my life been hard, or what's it called, marked that hard. Like that was something like a social experiment almost. Like
where are the cameras? Am I being punked?
No, I don't know.
Where
It
are
was
you?
wild. Holy, yeah. I don't know.
I don't think you're the first person to say something to that effect on this show either. Like, I think it's just kind of like Striker. he's just
but
good.
I mean, it was also like a meta where it's like you're kind of trading, right? Like it's kind of like a 5v5 going on, or like almost like a 4v4 between the tanks and the supporters, and then the DPSs are dueling, right? But yeah, that was that was kind of wild. For sure.
Social experiment. I like
that.
I mean, Striker does that to people, right? Like it's just a. Do you think that? Did you feel it because of okay? First part, you can stone face. Second part, serious question. Like, of course, like you stood out as like the star player for the Vancouver Titans. Do you think like marking you was just the best way to go about beating you guys?
I think it depends on meta. It's like maybe some. I guess like there was like some Widow metas, right? There's a lot about creating space within your Widow to just kill a lot, or stuff like that. Yeah, I think sometimes it was kind of targeted, maybe kind of focuses. But I mean, I guess like what the meta has been for Ash and other heroes like that, it's kind of been the focus point for a lot of the metas. So I don't think necessarily it's been like a team's evil plan, you know, to make my
just bully somebody.
Yeah, to just bully.
Somebody's getting bullied. Let's go.
I think it kind of went hand in hand with how the meta played out. So
makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's interesting how these things sometimes fall. Damn, I just lost my train of thought. God damn it.
Boo.
Boomer. You were close.
You'll never find it. You'll never
old
find
man.
it.
No, I might not.
Going. You're getting old.
Dude, like
Bust out the rocking chair.
If you want to take any advice from this withered old man, just stop aging. It's really not worth it.
Oh yeah, just stop.
There's nothing about wisdom, like not worth it, dude. Just stop. Just stop aging. The funny thing is, because this is ridiculous, by the way, but a lot of players come into the Overwatch League exactly, probably already at 17, 18, right?
Mm.
It's ridiculous to say, but you're already a little bit older.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I don't look too old, but yeah.
Are you the youngest even on the Fusion? Do you know?
No, I think it's Alarm, right?
Oh, it must be Alarm. Yeah, true.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Didn't he just turn 18 last season?
Yeah.
Alarm's 19.
It feels like
it's so weird because, like, you know, like how time sort of works in Overwatch is like, yeah, Alarm must be 21, right? He has been around for this
feels
long.
like it.
And you just came out of no, yeah, he's probably 18, right? Like,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean for sure.
But why do you think you didn't get your break at 18 then?
I mean, it was probably because like that was like it was like right there that I kind of had to choose, you know, like what did I want to graduate first and then pursue it or drop out. So it was because it was kind of right around that spot. I think, yeah, wait, was it actually? Because I can't even keep track of my birthdays anymore because I have birthday like 25th of July in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I must have been around, I guess 18, I guess, when I graduated.
Yeah. Like, one thing that is interesting, like now that I think about it, and now that what you said settles a little bit in, like what you said about aunts in terms of like him being the type of guy that lets you walk into his crosshair and be more like the calm and collected guy. Like, it's weird having not really studied your gameplay at all, but I would, like, just from watching you and how aggressive you were at a lot of times, I would have said, okay, this guy is about to give me a name that's just known for ego peaking, right? So do you want to be like the collected guy, or like, do you think high aggression is just like, that's what you excel at?
No, for sure. I think, I mean, I also said that to my coaches on Vancouver, that I want to get rid of the ranked mentality, so to say, as much as possible. But if you can have a guy that can keep some minor factors or like things from ranked mentality, right? It's pretty good as well, because some people can also get too, as we were talking about a bit earlier, right? Like too confident, or like not too confident, like almost too, what do you say, like
Too
nervous.
shy, like they won't go for
shy.
the play.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like they play too safe almost, and they don't go for the flank that 6 out of 10 times you're gonna kill 2, and then the other times you die and lose the fight, right? But I think the best situation also for the future is that if I can be really smart about the game, but also keep some of the factors that, you know, are a bit stupid, maybe, like some crazy rank
Sure.
plays, because I think that is also what I mentioned, like the way Overwatch works right now with like hero pools and stuff. There's so many drastic changes, so you need to be spontaneous sometimes. But I mean, we don't know for sure if we're gonna get a stale meta, right? You might not like flank for the next, you know, like the next 2 months, right? You're not gonna do the same flank, right? Because that's gonna be dumb. So yeah, I want to be like pretty clever about the game in general, or pretty smart.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, have some minor ranked plays.
What are other
Keep it
goals
in your-
for you? So,
What'd you say?
should I go on, Joe?
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
go ahead, go ahead.
let's all
I was
ask
just
a
gonna
question
be
at
quick.
We
once.
can also just
Let's
have
just
like
all
a
talk
minute
at
of
once.
silence for. Right. Now, what are some, let's say, personal and team goals you have? Like joining this, of course, like you must think you guys are going to compete for the title. That seems like a given your
Guest on
roster.
Tactical Crouch podcast, also up there, I would expect. So you
Right,
got that
like-
one out of the way.
Taking Christopher's spot, so you're pretty much contractually obligated now to show up 5 times a season. That's how it goes. But no, what do you think? Like at the end of next year, what do you want to have accomplished in order to say, okay, I was successful?
Yeah, I said, like, I guess my personal goals, or the more realistic one, is probably to be an MVP candidate. I like to think.
There you go.
And the bigger reach is probably to win the league. And then I guess like one of the more personal or like goals along the way, I think, is just to actually enjoy it. So, because I think that's a big part of it. Because I mean, it is a job, it is a passion. You play the game, you're pro, but it's also a pretty unique experience. So
Right.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys caught the retirement message from Chara, but that was like a really cool and unique insight on esports. And he basically said, like, his goal was just to have people enjoy whatever like he brings to the table. For people that say he was a good player and he also made me enjoy watching Overwatch, and that's why he wants to continue coaching, because he wants to bring that joy to people. And then this man is known for brick. Like, I was just like, okay, right. that makes perfect sense. But yeah, no, like, I think the enjoyment that you'll get out of the experience, and also, it's an interesting subject, of course, and feel free to stone face this one. But like, I think we have a lot of talks currently in the league about what is desirable for players in order to get onto teams, right? We have the discussions like, how is the Shock amassing that critical mass of players? How is that possible? Are they just throwing money They're not throwing money. So what is it? Guys want to win. There's also other factors where maybe because of prize money or like the reputation that you gain from being on a good team, you might. So it's vastly more complex. But at the end of the day, like I think there's a flexible component in what people want to get out of this. And like for you to say, like I want to have fun is a completely legitimate reason to join the Overwatch League, right? And I mean, it sounds like you also, because you finished school and everything, you have a plan B set up for yourself.
Yeah, somewhat, I guess.
Right. Like, did you have like any backup plan? Like, what you would have done? Like, let's say, of course, like 11 teams. Jesus Christ! Like, you were never going to be teamless this offseason. But let's say, what if? What would you have done?
One of the things I had in school was like innovation, and kind of I guess wanted or like to be an entrepreneur maybe, but I don't know for sure. I mean that might be a futuristic thing as well, right? But if it didn't work out, I mean I probably would. Yeah, I mean it's hard to say because it's really hard to predict, right? What would have happened or what passions I might have gotten or something like that. But probably would have traveled a fair amount and then studied some subject or something that I found interesting. So.
Do you enjoy the ecosphere esports enough to stick around after your career, or is it just like I enjoy playing, I maybe don't enjoy like the business as much? Or would you straight up say I enjoy entrepreneurship, maybe I'll just become the next Ocelot?
Yeah, I mean I don't know, I think it's hard to say because I feel like there's like esports, it happened, like everything happens so fast, right?
Right.
Like next year, you know, there might have happened some crazy things that has completely 180 the whole thing, right?
Right.
And then you have a global pandemic all of a sudden, right? Like that can affect things as well. But I mean, I do have a pretty big like passion in general for gaming and competing in general. So probably, hopefully, stick around and play the game for a long time. But I mean, I don't know. It's pretty hard to say because I mean, you never know. Like there might come a new game, right?
Right.
Sure. I think one thing is interesting though is that I feel like Overwatch League has been one of the more major like franchises like earlier in I guess like in esports, right? Like proper big franchises, and I think it has been, and it's gonna be for sure in the next years and a decade maybe, right? To like kind of see how that's gonna evolve and develop, because it's gonna be fast for sure. It's, you know, one day, right? You have a big esport org as big as you know, like some big football club, probably, right? So I mean, I think it's interesting as well to kind of follow the whole esport like franchise itself.
Look, this question was really just me fishing for like a cool clip 10 years down the line when you get your own org, and we can say we totally saw that coming, dude. Like we predicted it, yeah. Yeah, no. Of course, like also straight up, like it's a typical thing, especially like I think your structure, as you explained it in Denmark, it's very normal that because pressure is pretty high in terms of like what you got to achieve academically, that a lot of young folks just don't have anything to immediately go into and like grab their passions. And to have that at that age is like super nice to have.
Yeah.
The downside, of course, is that you're not exactly getting into like a 200-year-old craft that you know will likely be here for another 200 years. Yeah. You're going into a craft that has been changing so quickly in the last couple of years, right? So, like, having figured out a passion is amazing. It's just like, what will it even look like some years down the line? And also, I mean, passions are sometimes you fall into them, but you also, it's an acquired taste. for sure for a lot of the students that I have. So
Old man Yiska here, imparting the wisdom. Look at this, beautiful.
look, I'm just thinking, like, who's listening to this, right?
I just like, I want to know how you transported from your office to like a park bench feeding seagulls in the matter of like
Stale bread. Yeah.
Get off my back,
Totally
dude.
just like this,
Enjoying the twilight
sitting
of his
next
life.
to those chess boards fused onto the tables
Right.
in the park, and yeah.
That sounds like a good life, dude. Not gonna lie, like, you kind of got it.
I know you would love that. That's why.
Yeah.
You're the old man of the group here.
So, what's next? Do you have like a time frame when you're going over these types of things? When you start scrimming, like, is anything figured out, or is it just still because of COVID? It's just
Yeah, I mean, we have like a scheduled. I don't think it's determined yet. Like a scheduled meeting, and then we have to set up a plan. But there's nothing to like. There's no real dates like set
Right.
or anything yet. It's still kind of loose. So nothing really. I'm still just playing E ranked.
How's that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit rough right now. I think it's because of World of Warcraft, the new expansion. I think it's had a big hit on ranked, but
You can take the ranked out of the guy, but you can't take the guy out of ranked. That's how it
Yeah.
works.
Do you meet any of the European pro players at the moment on Dota at all?
yeah, not too many.
All right.
A decent amount. It is EU, so it's just quite a wild region. So
Sure.
Right.
I have one more Overwatch League related question, and I think we can kind of wrap it up here. And it's about rivalries. Players naturally like tend to, or based on either just themselves personally or the team that they play for, they tend to have a team that they just really want to beat. Do you have one of those teams where you're just like, you know, the Shock or the Gladiators or whoever? Do you have a team that you personally or as a team kind of consider to be like a key rival to you in 2021?
I don't actually think so. No, I think some of the most fun I've had was probably beating Atlanta, but that was because like their whole like reaction, right? Their attitude towards it, right? Because they can. I mean, I don't blame them at all. You know, some people are like, oh, they're going so harsh and on Shockwave and stuff like that. It's like I just think it's really fun, right? I think it's hilarious. But you know, a lot of teams that care and have fun, then when you lose to Vancouver Titans, of course, it's gonna have a big effect on you. So, but I don't think so necessarily. No, not really actually.
That's fair. You're not the only person to say that. A lot of players are just like the rival is the team that we're playing next week, and that's all I really care about is getting the next win. And I think that's totally admirable as well.
I mean, we'll probably. I guess you like it's also a little bit early, right? Like as you start scrimming, right, you might, you know, have some situations happen or some things is gonna go down in the scrim, right? And then you can build a rivalry. But as of right now, no, nothing.
So then the last thing before we kind of get out of here is we always like to give players and coaches an opportunity to just say something to the fans a little bit. There's a lot of people, the mods and the social media people at the Fusion were super gracious to share the show. So there's a lot of Fusion fans in here today. Excited to see their brand new Flex DPS. And so anything that you'd like to say to them for coming in, tuning in, what to expect, that kind of stuff.
I mean, right now I'm still a bit overwhelmed, but I'm really like thankful. I mean, it's a bit crazy, you know. Like I streamed once as well, and there's just so many, and I think it's kind of funny to me that people like say welcome to like our family. Because some people say like they say congratulations and stuff, and then you know yeah, people are like welcoming to the family, so it feels really wholesome and really nice. But I mean, I hope to be funny. I think that's my number one point I want to be. And I mean, of course, when we start playing, hopefully bring some good results.
You have funny Astro and funnier Shockwave. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much. Your social medias are all Shockwave OW, I believe. Are you Shockwave OW on Twitch as well, or are you just Shockwave on Twitch?
I'm Shockwavy.
Shockwavy. Got it.
That is so cringe.
You know how I found out about you initially before you joined OWL? You posted like the.
Oh.
No, it was you posting the tents video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it got like sick likes at that time, and like my Twitter algorithm just pushed it, and I just saw like the one with where you turned Super Saiyan. That's basically how I found.
Yeah. No, Tens he's deep inside me, man. That is the best meme ever. It is Tens for sure.
Really is
for sure.
Awesome. Well, Shockwave, thanks so much for hanging out, man. This was a ton of fun to get to know you better, to kind of hear what you think about the game, and just kind of take some temperature checks on the Fusion this year, and kind of what you're looking forward to. So I really do appreciate it a ton. Thanks to everybody who hung out for the show today as well. Y'all were great. None of you asked stupid questions, and we really appreciate that, because we don't like having to be like, hey, that's a stupid question, we can't ask it. For those questions that we didn't totally get to, it wasn't a stupid question, but it might have been. We'll never tell you. Just kidding. Well, I'm just savage tonight.
Who pissed in your Cheerios?
You know what? It's because
it
was me trying to queue up for normal dungeons in World of Warcraft this past week and having like 45-minute queues. I think it's still held over from that, I guess. Big thank you to our patron producers. Not Battle Crab. Oh my gosh, that was the old mantra there. Refine Bean, Fredino Pin, Battle Crab. Jeez.
He's out of it. He lost his motion.
67, Shara Picasso, Nathan Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Fabled Steven, Roger B. Owen, Chris R34444, Horbjorn. I listened to this podcast whilst on the toilet and in the shower thinking of Yiska, Peace Camper, Shrek 2 on DVD, Sir Girth-a-Lot, and Bronze Bot Boo How. Thanks so much for being a patron producer. No new patrons this week, but we had a ton of subs. Dynamic QQ, Sicklist, Chris R34444, Firelord Arkin, Golabor, OW, Fredino, Leonidas, Generic Joe, Boo Manfu, Anura09, Frank. That's the most French way, I think, to spell Frank. And then thank you, Picasso, for gifting 5 subs, and Chris R34444 for the additional gifted sub as well. We love you so much. Yiska, what do you got going on this week? Shout outs to the league. Where can people find you?
For me, First Strike Europe starts tomorrow. There's some games being played there. So I'm looking forward to covering that. Also, probably not a bad idea to shout this out. I'm currently, because I think we have a mild transparency issue on some topics in Overwatch League. So while I can tell you that some questions that have been posted are super specific, I won't be able to answer. I put out a tweet on Twitter just for people to ask questions, and I'll do my best to provide some information to the best of my ability. Of course, I will double check all of them with the respective sources. We'll try to be thorough, but I can tell you, the more specific the question is, the more obvious it will be who gave me the answer, and therefore I probably won't get it. So the better idea is to ask general questions about the nature of the league, and for me to just have a discussion about it, so we can start having discussions on informational eye level. Because I do think it's not fair that the general community is being judged by an atrophy of information. It is also still sort of harmful to have these discussions out in plain sight and for things to be misinterpreted that way, right? So that's how narratives break loose. And I feel like as journalists, this is exactly our job, and I'm very responsible to close these gaps. So please reach out on Twitter.
All right. Joe, what about you, man? Shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
I think I'm writing some stuff later today. Check that out. Yeah, nothing fun. No long prose, no weird Twitter posts. You'll find it if you want. It's out there. Go read it if you like reading, I guess.
Sweet. Well, as for me, you can find me everywhere at Kickedtripod, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, youtube.com/KickedtripodYT. Of course, you can find the show everywhere that you can find Tactical Crouch, including YouTube and all of your podcast RSS feeds, including Spotify. We're there. It looks like our podcast uploader is back up and working, so we will actually be posting the show later today on both YouTube and RSS for that. Other than that, thanks everybody for hanging out today. Hope you had a ton of fun, and we will see you next week for another episode of Tactical Crouch. This has been episode 151. Bye.